Thanks for the opportunity to to present here today. I'm very much in the mold of that description that Rebecca mentioned earlier, as someone who's interested in the potential of creative futures and creative thinking, but as someone who works in literary studies, can't always kind of figure out or grasp where exactly the research that I do can contribute to that. So what I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about a new project that I'm working on, and later on maybe think a little bit about where there is potential for that work to contribute something to this research group and to creative futures. So can everyone see the slides okay? Yeah. Okay, so so the project that I'm going to talk about is called CLS INFRA, which stands for Computational Literary Studies Infrastructure. And I'll begin by saying a little bit about what computational literary studies is, because I won't assume that people are familiar with this term, because it's a relatively new field or subfield. So it's sometimes known as distant reading or digital literary studies, and it addresses research questions in the fields of literary history or literary theory, and it often does this by using large-scale text collections and very often quantitative text analysis methods. So CLS then, as a subfield, arises from an increasing fragmentation of and a specialization of digital humanities. And it's been, over the last few years, increasingly visible and recognized in new projects such as this one, and in an increasing number of publications and new journals like Cultural Analytics, which admittedly has a broader purview than just literary studies, but perhaps and the new journal, the Journal of Computational Literary Studies, testifies to the growing prominence of this field. Crucially, it doesn't seek to replace literary studies or literary history, but to provide computational tools and methods for tackling issues and challenges within those fields in different ways. And CLS's trade in big data very often makes it amenable to addressing large scale and long durée research questions. So that's what computational literary studies is. The project that I'm working on has been funded by Horizon 2020 and one of their infrastructure programs. And so it began in April and lasts for 4 years, and we've gotten €5 million in funding from the European Commission. Well, just under. We weren't greedy in asking for the whole 5 million. The chunk of that comes to NUIG is just under 325 grand. And in Galway, we're leading the work package on dissemination, and Ciara Murphy, who's here as well today, is working with me on that. So the project has 13 European partners from 10 different countries, and it includes our Ignite friends in Ghent. And the project arose out of a cost action called Distant Reading for European Literary History. So I think that this provides a very good example of how a networking project such as a cost action can lead on then to a more substantially funded research project. And I'll say a little bit about that to give an example of how our group uses collaborative methods to build reusable infrastructures for literary studies and for CLS. So as part of this, the cost action, we created what's called the European Literary Text Collection, or LTEC for short. And that's a multilingual corpus of the European novel from 1840 to 1920, so just ending up where copyright coverage begins. And at present, it has just over 1,300 novels across 17 different European languages. So what we've produced is not a massive corpus or collection of data by big data standards, but what we've done crucially is to enrich those texts and that data with encoding that is relevant to literary studies. So it's a very canonically balanced corpus. It has encoding that deals with intertextuality, with named entities, with different other features that are specifically designed with the literary researcher in mind to better enable computational analysis than could be achieved with just raw text data of those novels. So one of the challenges that this project has addressed in building LTEC is the Anglophone bias of computational literary studies. So if you do any kind of search, you will find that a lot of CLS work is on English language literature. So what our project aims to do is to offer a different way of doing CLS that takes account of literature in different European languages. And more broadly, this collaborative effort allows us to see a more comprehensive picture of the European novel than is possible from within any one literary or linguistic tradition or indeed a national tradition. And as part of this, and as part of the new project, I'm currently working on building an Irish language novel corpus, which I can say a little bit more about later on, which John may be interested in. So the objectives of the project then, continuing from the principles of collaboration in LTEC, we seek to build a consolidated infrastructure from and upon existing fragmentary tools and resources for CLS that are already out there in the world. So what we want to do is to create a unified and easy access to the best data and tools and resources that are currently scattered across different projects and national infrastructures. One of the principal ideas behind this is that if there is a central resource for this, it allows people to use these tools and resources more effectively. So we see that as essential to addressing the challenge of engaging a larger number of literary researchers, especially young researchers and researchers from under-resourced backgrounds, to use the existing infrastructure and data for CLS. So we're hoping to reconfigure access to literary data by bridging access to these tools and resources, to map and match the requirements of the CLS community, and to conduct research into user requirements from people in literary studies and in computational literary studies. We don't just want to design things and say, this is what you do to do CLS. We're developing new tools and services for CLS users by integrating and optimizing existing tools, but also developing new tools such as programmable corpora, which is a concept based around taking a literary corpus and customizing it for your own needs. We want to increase and consolidate the user base for these by providing support services and training in CLS tools and methods. And we're hoping to have our first training school in Prague next summer, hopefully in person, but time will tell. We also want to strengthen a culture of collaboration by encouraging shared infrastructural practices and meaningful participation across literary disciplines and traditions. So interdisciplinarity is something that we're very invested in. These are some of the work packages that the project is involved with, and as they're laid out here, they seem to indicate an exclusively academic orientation. But within each of these areas of work, we're conscious of user needs beyond academic research, which will be addressed in project deliverables such as showcases of tools and methods, using data beyond literature, pilot studies on emerging CLS trends, training materials and events, and case studies in data preparation and sharing. And one specific output in this area is a report that we're going to write about user needs beyond academic research. And we're conscious that when research happens in these kinds of contexts, many aspects of that research can obscure their relevance and their utility from others who might find it useful. So it's really finding a way to reach people for whom these tools would be useful. But by the same token, we are conscious that the tools and resources and methods that we work with have the great potential to aid people working in other professions and citizen science and a range of other areas. So, for example, if you do a kind of a cursory literature search, you'll find very common CLS methods being used at the core of policy research and social science research. So just having a look around earlier today, I found such titles as measuring think tank influence using quantitative text analysis, text as data methods for comparative policy analysis, opinion mining, and sentiment analysis in policy formation or formulation initiatives. So the tools that we use are being used elsewhere in different disciplinary and policy contexts. So by contrast to the point in this slide, I think our community in CLS is also often guilty of failing to see the relevance of the tools and methods that we use to public policy and social research, social studies research. So I think we can improve in doing that by participating in initiatives like this in interdisciplinary research groups such as this one. So to prepare this report, the project is going to undertake a series of 15 to 20 interviews with potential non-academic users from the areas of policy, journalism, publishing, and citizen science. And what we want to do in the course of those interviews is to develop user scenarios of real or imagined research tasks. And these will then be used to recruit participants in project events. And I guess more importantly, they'll be released as a set of requirements for future research and future work in extending CLS methods and tools beyond academia. So just some ideas of where this could connect to this research group. I think there's the potential for involvement in current research that we are doing in this project. Even in a local context, we're using this project to develop the Victorian Plays project that's at the Moore Institute and developing this Irish language novel corpus. There are opportunities to participate in broader project tasks and objectives, perhaps a possible brainstorming session about how CLS tools and methods might contribute to a collaborative creative futures task or project. There's the possibility for members of our group or other people in Galway to apply to training schools and events that we run if you're interested in learning a bit more about these methods. And perhaps, I guess most importantly or most immediately, we run what are called transnational access fellowships. And these offer opportunities to bring CLS scholars or literary studies scholars to Galway for 2 or 3 months to work on any project related research. So we'll be running 6 of these calls. We're in the process of assessing the first of these calls, but there will be one of these calls about every 6 months for the next 2.5 years. So I think if this is something that, if you have someone in mind that you think would be good to bring to Galway, who's working in this area or has the potential to collaborate with you, we should talk at some point in the future. Okay, so I'll wrap it up there, just with a couple of links to the project website and its Twitter handle. So thank you very much.